Yes, we started recording. So we just switch off my video to save some bandwidth. So now let us go to one. This was the last class. Okay, so we have started our one. So switch to tablet mode. Okay, so we will start our discussion. So if you remember, so the last class, we have started our torsional buckling. Okay, flexural torsional buckling. It's a combination itself. Okay. So this we started in our last class. Okay, so we have started deriving, you see, the equations of equilibrium and others, and I think we were discussing with some type of a section like this actually. Okay, so which is unsymmetric kind of a thing, we were discussing. Okay, so we have taken the origin. So this section, say, so we had centroid is somewhere here, and we have this shear center. Okay, so now we have taken a shear center as our origin, and then we derived, you see, all those equations. Okay, but here if you want to go by that Newton's laws, free body diagram and others, it is complex, so we use this calculus of variations. Okay. So this we have done, but here the only thing which is different from the previous things was, so here we allowed all three direction. It can buckle in X, it can buckle in Y, or it can even buckle in torsion also. Okay, so you had three displacements, so two displacements were there, and then you had this beta, that is angle of twist was there. Okay, so finally from calculus of variations, say, so generally here for these type of problems, when there are multiple functions are there, so we derived using the calculus of variations, so finally we got some nice the equations we have got. Okay, so those equations was E I Y. Okay, so you the fourth order differentials all are now plus P U double dash, okay, minus P Y naught beta double dash is equal to 0. The other equation, say, so E I X. Okay, for this one, fourth order equation, so plus P V double dash, okay, buckling in V direction, so P times X naught multiplied by, you see, beta double dash is equal to 0. And the last one, which is the torsion thing which comes into picture, so you had this warping constant itself, so beta in the fourth order, it's also plus R naught square P minus Gj multiplied by your beta double dash, plus we had, sorry, minus, I think we had minus n y naught P U double dash plus X naught P V double dash is equal to 0. So these are the three equations which we have derived in the last class. Okay, that is a combination of flexural buckling and this the torsional buckling, flexural torsional buckling itself. Okay, so now so you can see, so if you want to solve, you can solve analytically also, like you have to solve these equations. Okay, see, but only thing if you see here, what type of equations are these? Where is the, what are the coupling terms here? See, like this equation is for U, this equation is for V, this equation is for beta. Can I say that these three are uncoupled or coupled ODAs?
Coupled ODs.
But what is coupled here? See, U and V, the first equation, if you see clearly here, say, what is coupled here? U and beta, that is flexural torsional buckling in X direction. Of course, you have also a torsion component. Now the second equation said, okay, so this is basically buckling in other direction, that is Y direction or something, and beta. And the last one, say, this is a complete coupling kind of a thing. So you have beta, then U, then V, all three are coupled in this expressions itself. Now we will see some special interesting things where you can make out from this equation. Let us assume that everything is simply supported kind of a thing. Okay, So with respect to warping or with respect to movements and all those things, let us assume simply supported. So already we know the mode shape when it is simply supported is for just for the time being. Okay, so A sine pi z by L. So we can write V also, some B sine pi z by L. And then we have phi also, say. So this is beta. Sorry. This beta is also some C sine pi z by L. Okay. So let us assume that it's up your natural, sorry, this geometric boundary conditions they satisfy. Okay. So substitute in these equations. Okay. So substitute in the equations of equilibrium equations. So those three equations are there. So we will get three equations. So all the derivatives they get cancelled. Okay. So if I write nicely, the first equation is so E sum I naught Iy, sorry, Iy into k square minus p into a. Okay. So you have to just calculate u double dash, v double dash, and all those things. So y naught p times c is equal to 0. The first one. Second one, say so E Ix into k square minus p into b. Plus is sorry, this minus is there here, so minus x naught p times c is equal to 0, and the third equation, so which is the complicated kind of thing. So y naught into p times a minus x naught into p times b plus e. Of course, you have this warping constant here, so k square plus gj minus r naught square p into c is equal to 0. So these are the three equations for simply supported. Assuming that all the supports are simply supported, even the warping restraint is also more or less like simply supported kind of a thing. So these three equations come. Now we have to solve for p, where your k square say is pi square by L square. Okay. And if you include some terms, like if I now we are introducing terms like you see, I am denoting px as a pi square Eix by L square. If I denote say px as this one, then py as pi square Eiy by L square, then your p phi, okay, as 1 by r naught square. So E warping, okay, so pi square by L square plus your gj. Okay, so if I denote px as pi square ei by L square, py as pi square ei by L square, and p phi as 1 by r naught square e, that warping plus gj itself. So now here we can write this in a matrix format, like ax is equal to b. So you are having the constants a, then b, then the c. So in the matrix format, and then we include all these terms to say. Okay, so we can write this and the determinant of the matrix. So you will get nicely. So py minus p 0, then y naught into p, then this one will be 0, px minus p, and this one will be minus x naught into p. Okay, and the last one is y naught into p, so minus x naught into p, then r naught squares. Okay, so p phi minus p. So this determinant of this matrix has to be equal to 0, or if you want to write ax is equal to b kind of a thing, so this has to be 0. So the determinant of this matrix, if you try to find out, so you will get like this. So py minus p, some kind of characteristic equation, px minus p, so p phi minus p. So off diagonals are not 0. So obviously you see your equation will be slightly complicated. So py minus p, p square x naught square by r naught square minus px minus p. So p square y naught square by r naught square is equal to 0. So this is your characteristic equation to find out this loads p. Okay, so this is a cubic equation you have. So obviously you see you will be having 3 roots kind of a thing. Okay, so now let us consider some interesting cases. Okay, so let us say the case 1, the first case, say. Okay, right now the derivation whatever we have done, it is unsymmetric. Okay, unsymmetric kind of a cross section. Suppose if the section is a doubly symmetric, say. Okay, like I sections, generally ISM whatever I sections are, the doubly symmetric. So doubly symmetric means what happens now? So if it is a doubly symmetric cross section, say, now what happens here? See, right now we
y
have
naught 0.
X naught, Y naught is 0. Right now we have taken the origin as shear center. So if it is doubly symmetric, say, shear center, centroid, both of them will be same. So X naught and Y naught will be 0. Okay, so this means, your X naught is Y naught, all of them are 0. Now what is the advantage you have here when X naught, Y naught is equal to 0? So if you see these equations here itself, these three equations, what happens? The X naught, Y naught, if they are 0. No. See, now this term, say, vanishes, this term vanishes, then this term, all of them vanish. So what is that you claim? What is the observation?
Uncoupled.
All are uncoupled. So U is separate, V is separate, beta is separate. So there is no chance of flexure torsional buckling cannot happen for a doubly symmetric cross section. Flexure is separate, phi is separate, this is separate. So there is no, like a joint, flexure and torsion, both of them are inducing buckling. Say that doesn't happen. That is the meaning of this expression. So this equation also. So if you write the characteristic equation, since X naught is 0, so this term, then Y naught is 0, so this term, all of them goes towards 0, so you will be left with, so Py minus P, then Px minus P, then is P beta or P phi minus P is equal to 0. So three roots will be there, so you can see, so P can be Py, that is the pi square Ei, by L square. So this is a buckling mode. Okay, so you can go back and check also the buckling mode shape also, which means A cannot be equal to 0. So B and C, both of them are 0 kind of thing, which means it's a pure flexural buckling mode. You followed? So pure flexural buckling kind of a thing you have. Now in a similar fashion, so when P is equal to Px, okay, so that is a pi square Eix by L square. Now, and then you go back and find out the eigenmode. Okay, so you can check that, you see, B has to be not equal to 0, whereas A and C say, so they will be 0. So this is also, you see, a pure flexural buckling. I hope all of you know how to find out the eigenvectors. Okay, so if you substitute, right, how to find out eigenvectors. Say, like for example, so this is our thing. Say, so you have A, B, C. This side also you will be having. So now X naught, Y naught are 0. This is a special case. So this term, all the terms goes to 0. You have only, you see, the diagonal terms will be there. So now when P is equal to Py, what happens? So if you write that expression, see this quantities. So this matrix, if you try to write here, so it is like this for this case. So Px minus P 0 0 0 Py minus P 0 0 0. Then you have R naught square P5 minus P. So this one, okay, multiplied by A B C is equal to 0 0 0. Okay, so now let us say P is equal to Px. So what happens when P is equal to Px? Sorry, I think I wrote Y and X here. Okay, so if P is equal to Py, say what happens when P is equal to Py? So you will be having equation like this 0 0 0. Then you will be having, you see, a Px minus Py kind of a thing 0. Then you have 0 0. Then you have R naught square itself. So P5 minus Py. So this has to be multiplied by A, B, C has to be 0 0 kind of a thing you have. So now to satisfy, say A should not, because anyway 0 into A, 0 into B, 0 into C, automatically the first equation is getting satisfied. So which means A cannot be equal to 0, whereas B and C have to be 0 to satisfy these equations. Okay, so that is how we can say that so for the first case A cannot be 0, B and C are 0, which means you see pure flexural buckling. So like this you can go back and find out your eigenvector also. Okay, now similarly the third one, say, so the last one, so PCR. Okay, so that PC is equal to P5 kind of a thing, so which is 1 by R naught square. So pi square E, your warping kind of a thing by L square plus GJ. Okay, so and of course here also, if you substitute P is equal to P5, you can show that C cannot be equal to 0, whereas A and B has to be 0, which means pure torsional buckling. Okay, so for doubly symmetric, say, so there is no coupling between that flexure and torsion, that cannot happen. So everything will be individual, like flexure, two flexures and then one torsion kind of a thing. So now if you want to calculate for any I section, say, okay, so you have in our steel code, right, I sections has been given, you know, ISMB, ISLB, you followed ISJB, all those beams are there. So now in the steel code, if you see the steel tables, they will give you all these terms, you know, this J kind of a thing, that's the moment of inertia, then warping, all those things will be given there. And you know, Young's modulus of steel, so you know all the radius of gyrations, all those things will be given. So you can use these formulas to find out, you know, the buckling loads for you know, this I sections. So now you know, so for I section, say, so generally how an I section fails, you know, like which mode will be dominant generally for I sections?
Py.
P
Y.
Py itself, okay, that is you know, because you followed it. If you take x and y, so your Py, say, or Px, suppose if you change the coordinate system or whatever, so which one, so your the most controlling factors are your Ix and Iy kind of a thing, okay. So generally the, you know, it buckles in fluxure modes. And many cases, if you try to see, say, your buckling load will be, you know, let us say it is a Py, okay. So generally you see your Px will be, you know, very, very higher. Then you have this P5, then it will be Py. So these how generally, you know, they look like. So torsional mode also will be there. It will be in somewhere in between two fluxures, okay. You can calculate all in your steel codes, you know, all these things. So you can try ISMB 300, you remember the 300 mm depth, you know, all those things you can try, and you can find out how these buckling modes, you know, looks like, okay. So these were doubly, you know, symmetric. Now let us see case 2, say, you know, so one axis of symmetry. So one axis only you have a symmetry, okay. So which means you know, so you are having you say sections like this. You followed, so section you know, like this, okay. I think I will draw properly. No. So you have a section, you know, like this, okay. So you are having, you see, so the centroid is somewhere here, so shear center is you know, sorry, shear center is in somewhere here itself, okay. Now similarly, if you're having a channel section, say, like this, okay. So now your centroidal will be somewhere here, and this is your shear center, okay. So this type of things are there. One axis of symmetry is there. So now if you're having one axis of symmetry, say, so which means you know, your y naught is 0, x naught is not equal to 0, because there is a distance actually between these two, okay. So now what happens? So now the same characteristic equation, so p, you substitute y naught is equal to 0, but x naught is there. So you will be having you know, px minus p, and then you see your p5 minus p minus, you know, p square x naught square by r naught square, okay. So this is our characteristic equation. So now here what is that you can observe here? What is observation here? Or you can even see the equations of equilibrium also, one for u, then v, and phi also. Just substitute y naught is equal to 0. Now what is happening? Now what does it tells you?
Px and
First is
P5 coupling.
So px and p5 are coupled. So what do you call this one? So this is a pure fluxure. This one root is a pure fluxure. Other one is, you know, your ft, fluxure torsional buckling, we say. Both of them are you know, combined kind of a thing. And then if you try to calculate, say, so now this is a quadratic equation. You will be having two roots for fluxure torsional buckling. The lowest root you know, you can easily calculate. So for fluxure torsion, say, so the lowest root will be 1 by some 2 times k. So p5 plus px minus you know, p5 square plus px, sorry, whole square, okay, this term is not there. No, p5 plus px whole square minus 4 times k px p5, where your k is, you know, this term, capital K, 1 minus you know, x naught by, you see, r naught whole square, okay. So this is the lowest root, the lowest ft root, okay, fluxure torsional buckling. And other root anyway, you know, that is px is the other root, okay. So sorry, py is the other root here. So py already, you know, no, I think I'm sorry, px, Okay, so this is our no, I think py py minus p only. Okay, so now other root, p is equal to py itself. Okay, that is a pi square eiy by L square itself. Okay, so these two roots are so you will be having three roots. The lowest flexural torsion buckling load will be this one, and this is your py. And now which will be the lowest? Tell me which one you can guess. You followed, right? How the roots will look like, whether the column will undergo flexure torsion buckling or pure flexural buckling mode. Now,
Flexural torsion.
no, but when it will have, so that depends on which is the quantity, which one governs here. Flexure torsion, your answer is right. K is the one, but
K will.
K will be there. Now here the most important thing you also see here, the length of the column actually. You followed. Suppose if the length of the column is too long, say, then what can happen?
Pure flexure.
Pure flexure, it happens. So now if you try to plot these modes, it looks something like this. So you have critical buckling loads for any channel section if you try to calculate versus L. Okay, so as already your py, okay, so something it will be like this. Okay, so now your p5, it will be something you say like this, p5. So this is your py, the pure buckling, pure torsion modes, and your flexural torsional buckling. So this root will be something like this. Oh, sorry. No, so this root will be something like this. You follow. So this is your ft buckling. So now when the column is so this is the buckling loads. Okay, so if the column length is too long, say, then your py will be the lowest. Okay, so if L is too long, so it will buckle in py itself, that is a pure flexure mode. Okay, but when L is small, or you followed, right, some limits are there, it depends on the type of the sections here, then the column will buckle in you see this flexure torsion mode only. So this combination only you see will come into picture. Okay, so you can plot these type of curves for your sections. Okay, like in your IS steel tables, you have you remember, right, all the ISMC that the channel sections are given. So using this formulas, say, so you can find out easily the buckling loads. So how it is going to buckle, so what should be your slenderness ratio, what should be the length of the column, up to which flexure torsion governs. When the length of the column is so long, say, obviously it is going to flexure in this buckling going to buckle in flexure mode. So all these things you can calculate using this formula. So you people can try in your steel tables. Okay, so you open your steel tables book, which you would have studied in your steel design, and you can use these formulas to find out how the columns are going to buckle. So for channel sections, say, so this can be used actually. Okay, and now the last case, anyway, this is complicated. Now it's completely unsymmetric. Now what can happen for unsymmetric, for the case 3, no axis of symmetry, so x naught is not equal to 0, and y naught is also not equal to 0. Now what will happen? What type of buckling loads you are going to get? So when x naught is not equal to, no, x naught is not 0, y naught also is not equal to 0. So what type of see, like for example, you have unequal angles, see something like this, unequal angle sections like this are there, so which are the problem what we have taken right now. Okay, one this thing, other like this. So these type of sections are there, say. So now because these are all unsymmetric cross sections, so if the cross sections are unsymmetric, so the original equations whatever we have written, say, they themselves will be perfectly valid. So this is your the characteristic equation. So now the characteristic equation, if you see, it is basically a coupled kind of equation. So there is no chance of getting pure flexure mode or pure torsional mode. There is no chance. So whatever it is going to buckle, say, so it depends on combination of flexure plus torsion. So flexure torsion, both of them are combined actually, or joined when the cross section is unsymmetric itself. Okay, so now if you try to plot it, you can try for unequal angles are there, say, in your steel tables you can plot. So generally, for these type of sections, so your the mode will be flexure torsion only. and as irrespective of your length of the column. Okay, so as the length of the column is increasing, so your py will be something like this. Okay, but your flexural torsional mode will be obviously something is it will be like this. So always so whatever may be your length of the column, say let us say this is a py, px or p5 is there, so now this type of columns, they buckle only under the flexural torsion only. So all of them are combined kind of a thing. So this is like a combination. Both flexural torsional thing will come, and you can use these formulas to find out for unequal angles. Okay. Unequal angle section. So all of you, what you do is you go to steel tables, what you have studied IS8, that steel tables book is there. So you have all the details of the angle section, channel sections, all those things are there. Say by using these formulas, you can easily find out how they are going to buckle. Okay. Now I think in your structural engineering laboratory, say the lab course, if you would have done, you will do some double angle, single angle. You remember. So that experiment also you would have done in structural engineering laboratory. So you can compare just how the things are going to buckle. Like you would have observed it's a flexure mode only. You would have seen in the laboratory also. Why not flexure torsional mode? You have not seen for double angle sections. You followed it. You can just try this using these simple formulas itself. Okay. So now like this, so now here in all the previous problems, we have taken the center. Our origin was the shear center. So some problems, you followed, right? You can move the origin, you can change it to centroid also. Okay, in the above problem, just your x naught, y naught, you followed it. They may change the sign, but all the expressions, everything will remove same. Okay, if you try to change the origin also. Okay, so now in this format, you can solve several problems. There is one very interesting column is there. See, do you have any columns which buckles only under pure torsion? Which one? Can you remember?
Cruciform.
Cruciform. Okay, excellent. So you have a special column that is cruciform. It is a very, very special type of a cross section where you have a column like this. You followed. So automatically it goes something like this. Okay. So this is a very, very a special column actually. So where the buckling can happen in this type of pure torsion kind of a thing. And let us say you have this type of a column, say. So let us say this Z, and the load is also applied like this. Okay. So this is a very, very special column. Okay. So you can derive. So now here the members, the individual members, say they buckle. There is a pure torsional buckling can happen actually. The members buckles. You followed. So this is a very, very excellent example. Okay, so where your this will get buckled, and you can derive your own equations also. So already we will not be, so because to derive these equations, you require this membrane analogy theory. We have done in our advanced mechanics of structures. I don't know how many of you would have done the course or would have studied this one. So using this, you can find out actually. Okay, for cruciform sections, so these sections are very, very special. You have this pure torsion only. No flexure torsion, no flexure mode. See, I section, channel sections, whatever we do, generally you see they buckle under flexure or flexure torsion combination will come. But this is a very, very special type of a cross section where it buckles not in flexure, but cruciform kind of this type of pure torsional mode will be there. So if you try to write equation of equilibrium, so same calculus of variations you can use, or you can go by this membrane analogy theory and all those things you say. Okay, so the equation of motion I am just writing here, you can derive yourself. So if you want to derive this equation of motions, you can see this Timoshenko book. Okay. So theory of elastic stability, I think they would have given to you, or maybe the soft copy. So in Timoshenko textbook, we have this the derivation. He has given nice derivation. So it is a fourth order ODE. So Gj, some minus sigma I naught times your phi double dash is equal to 0, where phi is your angle of twist. Okay, so this is the equation of equilibrium actually for this cruciform section. So there is no x, y, there is no uv kind of a thing. So you have a nice the equation comes, which is a pure torsion, and your I naught say is nothing but integral r square dA. Okay, the polar moment of inertia, something like that. So now, so this is your I naught. So this is a special and the critical buckling load for this type of cross sections. You can solve, you can find it. So this is a fourth order ODE. It's very easy. Okay, the same as our column buckling equation only, that ei y to the power of 4 we remember minus p times y double dash we have written. So the equation is exactly same. Only thing is now instead of y you are having this rotation, sir. That angle of twist is there, so warping and all those things comes into picture. So now you can easily find out the buckling load also, okay, or the buckling stress. I think they have given here. So this will be some sigma critical buckling stress, 1 by I naught. Okay, so Gj plus pi square n square by L square E times your warping constant. Okay, so this is a very special type of a cross section where it buckles only under torsion. There is no fluxion, torsional mode also. Okay, so if you see this expression, so this is same as this can be explained through the previous one also. Like this expression, say. Okay, so like when we derived the general for the where is that one, doubly symmetric. Okay, so now we had these modes. See, these were the equation. You follow the pure torsion kind of a thing. So exactly same for cruciform section. Exactly same to same whatever we derived previously. Exactly same itself. The pure torsion. The above equation also can be used for its cruciform also. Okay. So now this is a very interesting cross section you see for this one. Okay, now in a similar fashion, so you can find out for variety of cross sections. See, like suppose if you're having a C type of a section, say, now if you want to find out the buckling load actually, okay, this also you can solve using our calculus of variations, but you should know this membrane analogy and all other theories. I don't know how many of you know. So you can see this Timoshenko book. Okay, so he has given thin walled sections. Goodyear, I think, the theory of elastic stability. So he has given all the derivations are there. It is an excellent book, classical thing. You can study these books, and then you can write equations of equilibrium and the similar lines, whatever we have derived just now, and you can derive what is a buckling load, what fluxural torsion modes, and all those things you can derive on your own. Okay, maybe we will come to this problem maybe after some time. Okay, maybe in the end we will discuss something little bit more on this torsion things. Okay. Now let us see our the next important thing, that is lateral torsion buckling. Is a very important for beams. Yeah, so these are very important for beams. Okay, you would have seen in your IS I800, the steel code also they give these formulas, lateral torsional buckling. Some formulas has been given. So as I told you, right, in undergraduate, when you do the steel designs, you should not question the code. But now, we will derive how that formula has been obtained in your IS 800. Okay, the critical bending moment and other things. So now let us see our derivations. Okay, so now you are having a column like this, or a beam. Sorry, it is a beam itself. No. So it is a simply supported beam, I section or some sections. Okay, so this is your A and this is B, and it is subjected to some type of a load. It may be a UDL or it may be anything. So general arbitrary load. Okay. So let us say this is our coordinate systems. So this is my Z and this is my Y. Okay, and X is perpendicular here. So L is the length of your beam. Okay. So this is your centroidal axis, and if you see the cross sections, so the cross section of this beam is something like this. So for time being, we assume unsymmetric kind of a thing. So this is your I section. Okay, little to make the problem is more complicated. Okay, so the this top flange, bottom flange, they are entirely different. They are not symmetric kind of a thing. Okay, so what happens when they are not different? So if the centroid is here, say if it is C, what happens when because of this one, the shear center will be different. All of you know these things. So this will be your shear center. Okay, yes. Suppose if we have top flange, bottom flange, both of them are same, so then obviously C will be equal to S. So our derivation is something, you know, more generalized kind of a thing. Of course, if you make it bottom flange C is equal to S, you can solve your own. Like we did the derivation previously, right? We did for unsymmetric, then we collapse it to doubly symmetric, singly symmetric, like that. So this derivation is much more general. Okay. And now what happens when there is this buckling? Yeah. So if you denote this axis also, so this is your cross section X and this is your Y. Okay. So we are taking you know, the origin as you see the centroid. Okay. You can take origin as centroid, or you can take you know, whatever you followed it. You can take this shear center also as a this itself. So now you know, so this section said due to lateral torsion buckling, what happens is you know, all of you know. So I'm just zooming. So it's the same thing I'm just drawing here. So centroid is you know, somewhere here, and my shear center is somewhere here. Okay. So now because of this, so this is my axis X, Y. Let us say your shear center is at a distance of Y naught from the centroid. So now you know, so because of lateral torsion buckling, how the beam is going to buckle? No. So generally when you apply the loads, all of you know that it bends like this. Okay, but in lateral torsion buckling, what happens? It bends in y direction, but also laterally it buckles actually. Okay, in x direction also you will be having. Now why lateral torsion buckling occurs? All of you know, right? You are familiar with this one. So when there is a load, what happens? The top flange will be in compression, bottom flange will be in tension. Like in the first class itself, I told you, buckling means any materials, anything under compression, there is a chance to buckle actually. Okay, but here why lateral torsion comes into picture is the top flange is under compression, but the bottom flange is under tension. Okay, so now what happens is when the top flange is under compression, so this tries to buckle, but the bottom flange is under tension, it will not buckle. So because of that, what happens is, you know, the if it buckles, say the both are under compression, uniform compression, the full beam, you know, it will buckle like this. Now because you know that bottom flange is in tension, it will not try to buckle, it will try to, you know, resist this buckling itself. So due to this, what happens here, you know, you will get this torsion also. So this also comes into picture. That's why we call as, you know, a lateral torsional buckling. You followed. So the name comes because both of them are, you see, the coupled kind of a thing. Because the top flange, bottom flange is under tension kind of a thing. Okay. So now, so in lateral torsion buckling, so this is our cross section. Okay. So now what happens is, you know, so the column say it goes, you know, like this. So this beam. So the cross section, it becomes, you know, something like this. Okay, due to buckling. Okay. So that this one, you know, becomes like this. So now if we draw this once again, if you take, you know, this C and your S dash, say, okay, so this is your S dash. It is a new, you know, the shear center C dash and S dash itself. And if you take a new deformed coordinate system, say, let us say denote this as some eta kind of a thing, and this is you know, this psi. Okay, so these are the deformed coordinates here. And now in the deformed coordinate system, say, I think I have drawn properly. So this portion is a V and this portion is a U. Okay. So your shear center, it has moved, you know, in U in you know, Z direction, and it has moved by V in eta direction. So I will just write. So your X, Y, Z. Okay. So they are the undeformed coordinates. So undeformed coordinates here. And your psi, then eta, say, they are basically deformed coordinates. Okay, so your U and V for the shear center. So they are in eta psi eta coordinate system. Okay. Okay, so these are two different coordinates. Okay, so now you know, we will try to find out. You see, now to find out, to derive these equations of equilibrium, say, for this type of a problem, because it is a complicated problem, so the best way is, we will use this calculus of variations. So it is very easy in calculus of variations, as previous problem also we have seen, right? You write energies and then use this Euler-Lagrange differential equations. Automatically you will get our equations itself. So now we calculate strain energy due to buckling. Now what will be the strain energy here? So how many strain energies are there here during this lateral torsion buckling? Tell me how many strain energies are there here? How many components it will be having?
Bending and torsion.
Bending, but here you follow, right? Be careful. Bending, when you are saying bending in which axis? See, there is a bending in Y also. You follow, right? So it bends in this way also. But due to lateral torsion bucklings, you can see here it is also bent in X direction. Also, it is bending. Okay. Plus torsion also will be there. So you are having two bendings, and then the torsion. And in torsion also you have two things. One is due to warping. Other one is your Saint Venant theory itself. Now here when buckling, say whether to consider bending in Y direction. So in the Y, you see the column is going to bend like this, ordinary flexure, but this is not going to cause your buckling. So the bending in X direction, say, that is going to cause you, the flexure kind of a thing. So now, so the buckling is more or less related to bending in X direction and then your torsion. So we neglect this bending in ordinary, this Y bending around Y axis. So now the strain energy will be, like this. Okay. It is something like, you remember in the, for a column, say, how did we write our, the energy? So what did we say? How did we calculate energy in a strain energy in a column? See, generally when the load is, you remember, when the load is very, very small, your strain energy in the column is only done by axial, the compression kind of a thing. But then when P is equal to PCR, say, suddenly, your column is going to buckle like this. So we wrote the strain energy for only bending only. You remember. So this only we considered to write our strain energy. So this we neglected. So here also, when the load is very, 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 very small, say, see, when the load is very small, so now what happens is, there will be only bending in Y direction. So there is no lateral torsion buckling is going to happen in your beam. So then your strain energy will be simply your, your V double dot or whatever, you could have written. But now when W is equal to more close to that critical buckling mode, say, so what happens is suddenly at that point, it bends in X direction and then it also twists actually by some angle phi or beta, other direction itself. Okay. So this is how we have to write the strain energy. Okay. So now I will just, this angle is phi, say, okay, the angle of twist or whatever we are having. So now the strain energy will be, so now the strain energy, say, we can write as, so combination of, three things will be there. Okay. So, you can write as your U. So half, 0 to L propelled. So U is equal to half, EIY U double dash square. Okay. Plus you have, so half is 0 to L. So E, of course, you have this warping constant here. So phi double dash square. Okay. Plus, so dz will be there here also. So here also dz. Plus you have this sin V naught, that is half 0 to L Gj phi dash square dz. Okay, so this is our buckling. So we have neglected this half 0 to L EIXSA. So V double dash, so this we have neglected. That is a bending because this is not related to torsional, this fluxural torsional buckling. So this is the strain energy when the load is, your WC, whatever load, if it is less than or equal to WCR. So this is the, the strain energy in the big. But once it starts buckling, say, okay, so it goes to, lateral torsion buckling. So this is a combination of this U, which is, the curvature, U double dash in X direction. Then you have this warping thing. Then you have this, this Saint Venant torque itself. Okay, so this, be careful. So like the same thing, whatever we did in the column also. So in the column also, when we wrote strain energy, when the load is very small, say, the strain energy will be only axial thing. But when P is equal to PCR at the transition, then, so this we neglected. We wrote only this bending the mode itself. So same concept we use here also. Only thing here, the problem is multi dimensions are there. Okay. And now I know, so we have to do some now. So this is the strain energy in your beam. So now you have to do this work done by your the load. So this also, like previously we wrote as minus p by 2. You remember y double dash by 2. I think last class we did in 2 dimensions. The Taylor series. Then you remember that expansion we did and others. Now we have to do for our this load also. Okay. So now this is my section here. Let us say the load is applied somewhere above, not at the top flange or something. So it is some wy. Okay, maybe this is like beams are there above this also, one beam is there, some transfer is going to come like this. Okay, so now let us say this is our shear center, this is our centroid. Let us say the distance is say between here, let us say this I call as ay. Okay, and your deformation say. Okay, so this has become this. So this is our thing. Okay. So now I know. So this shear center says. So now this is your S dash, and this is your C dash. Okay. So this thing. So shear centers, if it has moved by ys. Okay. So now you can find out. So this angle. So this is your phi. That is a torsion because everything is getting rotated. And your load say because it has so this is your wy. Okay, so this portion is a bar y. Okay, so now we have to find out to see how much the load has moved, and then we have to calculate this work done by the load. Okay, so anyway, so now the time is over, so I will stop here. So we will continue this derivation in our next class. Okay, fine. So we'll continue this derivation in our next class. Okay.